Well, it's been about 2 years since we had this massive disruption in society and work and in home as the pandemic came. And with me to talk about this new report that's come out from Accenture, Mark Curtis, the head of innovation and thought leadership at Accenture Interactive. And Mark, welcome. This is called the Fjord Trends report from Accenture. So let's just start, explain this report. This is an annual thing and you're looking to kind of determine what exactly?
Yeah, we've been doing this for 15 years, actually. And what we've been doing and what we still do now is look at the intersection between business and humans and technology, and what are the major things happening there, which are shifting and which we're going to have to think about over the next year to 3 years. So it's a relatively short time frame. And those things that we're thinking about, the effects of those is what is it that business needs to think about when it's thinking about the products, services, experiences that they deliver to their customers all over the world. We pull this report from about 2,000 designers in our network across the world. We've got around about 40 studios globally. And we very carefully go around every single designer and get them to give us their best thinking.
My goodness, you've had a lot to chew on over the past 2 years with this report. I mean, what a huge disruption. Let's go. There were 5 main kind of themes in this report. So let's go through each one of them. And the first one, come as you are. So explain what that means.
The come as you are is about a really big shift in the way in which people are turning up. I mean, literally turning up, both at work and as consumers. And what's happening is that people are really rethinking who they are. We've seen very clear-cut evidence over the last year that one of the deep effects of the pandemic is it's given people both the time and the space, literally both those things, to reimagine who they are. And as they're doing that, so they're beginning to say, you know what? I'm going to be more comfortable with myself. I'm going to explore myself in different ways.
And what about the end of abundance thinking?
So the end of abundance thinking is really, a lot of that is catalyzed by the really severe supply chain and actually service crisis we've experienced over the last 9 months, not just in North America, but we've heard examples of this from all over the world. And what's happening is that people are coming up against a place where they can't get what they want when they want it. And we're beginning to ask serious questions about the whole framework of abundance as part of consumerism, that we can always dig up more, we can always make more, assuming we can afford it, we can always buy more. That's come to a juddering halt.
Right. Yeah, I see those things in my circles as well. Now, the metaverse. So that has been a big topic. Of course, Facebook renamed itself Meta. Seems like that whole concept has gained a lot of steam, and you're seeing that in this report as well, right?
We are. Look, it's early days. And the metaverse, let's be clear, the metaverse right now is a guess that a whole number of different technologies and trends are going to come together in the same space and create a really different environment for interactions. Now, I happen to believe in that guess. I think that's correct, but it could take 5 to maybe 20 years to play out. But what's interesting is that a very large number of companies are beginning to look at this and take it very seriously. So then you have to ask, well, why? What's different about what we call the next frontier? And what's different is, I'll summarize it with 3 Ps. The first is place. You don't typically talk about going to a website or going to an app. I mean, you might say that, but generally people don't. And that's because it's not a mental model that they're traveling somewhere. But with the metaverse, you actually will think of yourself as going to a place in the metaverse. The second is population. Again, when you look at traditional digital media, if I can say such a thing, websites and apps, you don't really think about who else is there at the same time as you, unless you're doing something like Peloton or Zwift. But actually, those are very good examples of places which people are increasingly going to, which really come alive when there is a population there. So that is the second P, population. And the third is property. NFTs, or non-fungible tokens, which is kind of the application of blockchain to giving people the ability to buy and trade things for themselves and have a record of that. NFTs are likely to be a very major part of the metaverse. And that gives people the ability to have property.
Very interesting. So this is going to be fascinating to see how the next 10 years play out. And also, we've just gotten used to kind of having information at our fingertips. Voice assistant, that is all expected to continue, according to your report, right?
I think so, but I think it's more of a challenge than that. I think we're asking more and more and more questions. So yes, we get information easily these days. And what Google has done is it's turned us into question machines. We literally have become machines for questions. I don't think, if you could track this, I don't think 25 years ago, before Google started, you would have found that we were asking the same number of questions every day as we are now. But we're asking more because we can get them answered much more quickly now. Purchase, and we're asking more questions and expecting more answers through them. Artificial intelligence will probably, particularly conversational artificial intelligence, will probably play a very key role in providing us with that critical information.
Now, this last one is really interesting because it's kind of thing we know instinctively, but I've never seen it kind of put together like this. But the concept of care, self-care, and just care of things that we have. Explain that? How does that all fit in?
I'm really glad to hear you say that the way you did, actually, Jane, because this was a bit of a surprise to me too. And we found ourselves having a conversation. We were looking at all the evidence from our designers globally, and we were trying to understand what it was telling us. And care was the word that came up more than any other word from these 2,000 designers right the way around the world. And we looked at that and we said, this has become a really big thing in society, but people aren't talking about it like this. And that's why we created this trend, which we call Handle with Care.
Fascinating stuff. I mean, and we're living in interesting times. I feel like we are going through some tectonic shifts. Thank you so much, Mark, for joining us and explaining this report.